Hey guys, if you don't know, my name is Jessie and I'm the Dirt Bike Girl. And this is my first in my series on cornering. Well, really, it's my series on me improving my corners, and I hope you guys get something out of it. When I think about cornering, I immediately get overwhelmed and anxious because there's a lot that goes into it to make a corner really good and fast and successful. See, I'm already getting anxious. And I know I need to improve it, but I also know I don't need to be thinking about 50 things at once when I go into the corners. I need to make everything muscle memory. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick one thing and work on it at a time. And I hope you guys enjoy going along this journey with me. This week, we're working on what I'm worst at, braking. So let's get into it. Before we get started with our drills, I wanted to put a lap time in. I picked the grass track because it was short and had some really great turns in it. I'm hoping to be able to see a measurable difference at the end of all of this. And that means that my lap times are going to get faster. But I know it's going to take time, and I'm going to have moments of frustration because I've been through this process before. When I was learning how to do a wheelie, when I was learning to make tight turns and do full lockout 360s. So I've been through this. I know it can get frustrating and hard, but I know at the end I'm gonna see results. So I wanted to get a lap time in to see where I'm at now. Okay, let's talk about my goals. When you're doing training, you want to make sure you have clear goals when you're going into it. Just don't go out and do whatever because you'll never get anything out of it. So here are my goals. I want to do all my braking before the turn. This is going to be important later on because I want to get onto the gas as soon as possible. That's going to help keep my bike upright. But for right now, I'm not going to worry about the turn at all. The only thing I'm going to worry about is braking. So all I want to be able to do is use the front brake and the rear brake together before the turn to slow my bike down to a manageable speed through the turn. All right, 1 minute and 33 seconds is the time I have to beat. Let's get into some braking drills and start at the very beginning. I see most people having trouble using their rear brake, and your rear brake is important because your front brake can be very dangerous. So, starting off, the way I find my rear brake is I pick my foot up, hit the side of the case, and push down. I know you can't feel the brake, but I can feel my foot hitting the side of the case, like that. Don't take your leg away from the plastic. Front brake, 1 or 2 fingers on it. That's it. Okay. So let's get into it and just start practicing from the very beginning. I want to do it on a straight line because I'm not going to be using it in the middle of the turn. And I'm just going to practice coming to a stop, keeping it real simple. So that's it. Just using my rear brake to begin with because that's where most people have trouble, is using their rear brake. This time around, I'm going to take my leg away from the plastic like I was talking about. I'm going to try and look down so I can see it, but that's going to make it harder for my foot to reach over and get the brake. And this was actually really hard to do, like that. And you can see I'm having a hard time because I'm trying to look at it. That's something you don't want to do. Keep your eyes up and ahead. Find it by picking your foot up, hitting the side of the case, and pushing down. Once it's muscle memory, you won't even think about it. I don't think about it anymore, and I rarely miss it. Once you're starting to get comfortable with that, start locking up your rear brake. So, this is just knowing how much power you have and being okay with skidding it. It's going to be important later on. Right now, I just want to keep it in a nice straight line and lock it up and slide. Later on, we're going to use it to slide sideways, but right now we're just keeping it in a straight line. I'm starting off sitting, but it's going to be important to do this standing. So we'll work on that in a minute, but right now we're just going to do what makes us comfortable. Once you're comfortable with your rear brake, add in your front brake. It's important to know how much to use. 1 or 2 fingers on your front brake, you don't need to use a lot. It's 80% of your stopping power, a lot of stopping power. It really helps you slow down. And I'm going to need it later on. For sure, this bike can go fast. And because I'm on a 2-stroke, I don't have engine brake to help me slow down. If you're on a 4-stroke, you're going to have to be conscious about going a little faster and not letting your engine brake slow you down. When I used to be on a 4-stroke, I had a bad habit of letting the engine brake do all the work. Alright, so now I'm on to standing. When I'm standing, I'm just going to pick a gear, second gear, come to an almost stop, feather my clutch, and keep going. Just keep it simple, guys. If you're not used to doing it standing, this is a great place to start. And I'm used to doing this, so I have really good balance. This is a great way to work on your balance. The one thing I wish I was doing is I'm kind of forward a little bit. I'd like to see myself get back a little more. And I just realized it when I did it that time. This time I think I'm going to get back a little more. So here we go. Yep. More back over the rear wheel. You don't have to be dramatic, okay? You don't have to be all the way over the rear wheel. But this is going to help the rear wheel get traction and dig into the ground. You do want to keep your weight pretty even when you're braking. So like I said, not all the way over the rear wheel, because you've got a turn essentially coming up next for the most part. And we want to use both our front and rear suspension in the turn. Again, I'm real comfortable with this. So I'm going to move on to the next step where I'm not as comfortable. The next step is locking up that rear brake to slide into the turn. So what we're trying to do here is lock up the rear brake, slide it out to the outside to set us up for the turn. Kind of like that. I'm not worried about the rest of the turn. Don't worry about the rest of the turn. Just worried about braking right now. When you're braking, you want to be standing, so practice standing. Again, I'm not using any front brake yet. I'm just getting used to the power of the rear brake. That time was not that great, and you will see this. I'll have a couple really good trips, and then I'll get a little nervous, and I won't be as aggressive. I'm sticking to 1 gear, second gear, so that I don't have to think about shifting. This next attempt is really good, so let's watch it. Come in, lock up my brakes, slide out to the outside, see how it sets me up. Let's watch it in slow motion. And you can see I'm sliding my wheel out and it's setting me up for the turn. It's a lot of fun once you start doing it. And I really encourage you guys to try this. It's good to know too, because if you go really fast into a turn and use too much rear brake, you want control over your bike. And this is all we're trying to do, is get control over the bike. If you're on a 4-stroke, you are going to have to ride more aggressive. More gas coming into it, because the engine brake is going to help you out, which is great. We're going to need that later on. But don't let the engine brake do all the work for you. You use the brakes too. Get in a habit of using your brakes. That's the only way you're going to get faster. Okay, let's look at this from a different angle so we can see what the bike is doing. You can actually see the rear. Wow, that one wasn't very good. And you're going to have that. It's okay. Don't get too down on yourself. Come on, Jesse, get on that gas. And let's go. Let's see the bike go sideways. You can see the rear wheel come around like that. A little bit of counter steering is all you need. And mostly it's in where you're putting your body weight. It's easy when you're turning to the left to put your body weight on the same side as you're braking. And that's what you want to do. So that makes this way easy and the other way a lot harder. So make sure you practice both ways, and we'll do that in just a minute. Last thing, choose a turn that you can blow, completely blow, that you're not going to run into anything. Because as you see, I missed my brake this time, and I blow straight through the turn. And it's no big deal. You want to be able to do that. So here we go. We're going the other way, and sorry, there's a little bit of a tree in the way. But this is my good direction. I knew going into training from the beginning that the right was harder for people. So I trained to the right nonstop. And to me, I feel more comfortable going to the right. But that's not going to be true for everyone. One of the problems when you're turning to the right is that you are putting all your weight on the inside when you're braking, and you want your weight on your outside to make the corner. So be careful of that. All right, so now we can see a little bit better. And I've changed turns. Make sure you can practice the turn you're working on in both directions. So there we go. I'm doing the same stuff just over and over and over again. I want it to be muscle memory, and I want to have at least 4 out of every 5 being successful before I move on to the next thing. And I'm not there yet. I need a lot more practice. This is going to take time, and that's why I'm hoping that this is just going to build on the next skill. I'm going to continue to work on this as I'm adding skills in. Since I'm starting to get comfortable with my rear brake, I'm going to add in a little front brake. I am no longer going to be my ultimate goal trying to slide that rear wheel, but if I do slide the rear wheel, if I use too much rear brake, it's okay. I know what to do. So I'm just going to add in front brake, rear brake together to make a nice, smooth slow down. Again, I'm not worried about the rest of the turn yet, but something's going to happen to me in a minute. I'm going to start thinking about the rest of the turn. Even though I've told myself, given myself clear goals to work on, of course I want to jump ahead a couple. I want to show off for the camera, and I want you guys to be really proud of me. So I'm going to start trying to make really amazing turns for you guys. And guess what? I'm not ready. So here we go. Start thinking about the rest of the turn. Look, I just sat down. I tried to take my foot off the peg. Look, guys, I am going to want to sit later. Look how early I sat that time. I wasn't even done braking. I am going to want to sit in my turn. I'm going to want to lean my weight. I'm going to want to use my clutch and all those things later on. But if I add it in too soon, then I'm going to end up with results like this, where I'm not doing anything because I'm thinking about my foot coming off the peg right now. I'm trying to keep it up, so I'm sitting too early. I'm not leaning my weight. Foot's off the peg. I need this stuff to be muscle memory before I can move on. And so now I'm stressing out. Now I'm feeling like a failure. Now I'm getting angry. And those are not the things. Look, now I'm touching the ground with my foot. These are not the things that I want to be doing. All I want to be doing is working on rear braking. Or braking in general. And you can see I switched directions because I was getting frustrated. But I'm getting frustrated because I'm jumping too far ahead. All I should be working on is just braking. And here I am still doing too much. If you're more comfortable sitting in turns, get comfortable standing. Don't add sitting in until the very end. It's just one more thing. We just want to keep it smooth and fluid. Okay. Let's go back to the basics and just work on braking. There we go. That was pretty good. And look at that. All of a sudden, it starts to come together better. I stopped worrying about everything else and just started worrying about braking. Sorry about the shaky film. My sister was all over the place. I did sit that time and put my foot out, but the braking was better, and I did it while I was standing. I can be a little more aggressive. I'm not going to stress too much about that yet, though. I'm just going to work my way up to being more aggressive. Slowly and surely. There's no reason to rush any of this. Definitely need to be more aggressive that time. I could have rolled straight through that turn, and I pretty much did. If you're feeling a little frustrated, just go on to a different turn. So now, I'm just working on different turns. Just working on, this is my track that I have my ultimate goal on. So I need to practice each turn individually. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. And I'm going to do all the turns, but I'm not going to show you guys all the turns because it's hard to see me. But just go on and practice each turn. So I'm coming in real aggressive. Front brake, rear brake together to slow down. I'm not worried about the rest of the turn. Just do the rest of the turn however. If you blow it, you blow it. No big deal. We'll work on the rest of it later on. Hey guys, I hope that helps you. I'm going to continue to work on braking, and we're going to see where we go from here. Next up, we're going to work on shifting. I just stayed in one gear to keep it simple, and I think you should too. We'll add that in as we get more comfortable with braking. But for right now, I'm just going to work on braking, and I hope I can see some real improvement. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. And let me know what helps you with your braking. Remember, it's only one down and the rest is up.